Hello, this is Angie Yingst, and you're listening to Centered, grounded conversations about the metaphysical. Hello, welcome to 2024, and welcome to Centered. This is Angie Yingst, and I am here with your reading for 2024. And actually, it's not really a reading. I'm just going to give you the archetype of the year and some astrology. But I want to start out with some personal news and experience, and I promise I'll weave it back to 2024, but I feel like I need to share with you. But my beautiful membership group knows this, but I want to share with you that I'm taking a step back from my business, the Moon and Stone Healing Academy, this year, at least starting in January. I'm definitely taking January off. And, 2023 was the year of the Chariot. So that's the archetype. Like if you add all the numbers up, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 3, you get 7. So we work with the archetype in the major arcana. So we go up to 21 and we keep breaking it down. But so 2023 is the year of the Chariot, and it's been a significant time of transition for me. And I think for a lot of people, I just want to be honest and disclose that I've totally hit burnout, and the business that I worked for many years, Hibiscus Moon Crystal Academy, closed at the end of 2022. We were very busy in 2022 going into 2023. And my idea was to kind of build my own academy. I've been teaching for many years, for almost a decade. So, I've already been teaching, but I wanted to kind of focus just out of my Moon and Stone Healing Academy. And the one thing I can say about Hibiscus Moon was that we had 8 of us working to make things look smooth and to get out the word that we were offering classes and all of that. But I was just me. I'm just a one goofball show, and I was doing the work of 8 people, as well as being the front-facing teacher and mentor and guide. And plus, I have 3 children, and they need to be everywhere all the time. So I'm also the full-time chauffeur and Uber driver for 2 teenagers and a precocious 9-year-old. I'm also the housekeeper here, the personal assistant, the bookkeeper, the IT technician, the executioner of dust bunnies, the all-knowing Oz. I am the cruise director, the laundress, the banisher of monsters in the night, the chef, the sous chef, the pastry chef, the barista, the dishwasher. I'm the tribal leader and medicine woman of my family. And that is taking a lot of time. I had a conversation with a friend of mine whose kids are in their 20s. And he was talking about how, bigger kids, bigger issues, we end up really needing to be present for them when they're teenagers. And that's the point where some people just kind of feel like, oh, they're big enough. They got this. And I feel like, it takes a lot more psychological energy to figure out how to be good parents to them. So all of this is to say that Angie, as the 2 of Pentacles juggler, dropped all her balls and everything smashed around me, and not in a literal sense, but within me, my sense of self and identity, my mental health. I really had to look at workaholism. And as I did, more trauma unveiled itself. And so I'm doing more trauma healing. And then the reality of the last 2 years kind of settled in, which is, I've been surviving. I survived breast cancer and a double mastectomy, and then I had an infection through my chest and anemia and COVID and the diagnosis of a second cancer in my uterus with a total hysterectomy and bilateral sapectomy and oophorectomy. Is that how you say it? I forget. I had my ovaries removed, but putting me into complete menopause. And because of having hormone receptive breast cancer, I couldn't receive any hormones. So I'm raw dogging crondom, guys, and menopause has been lovely in some ways. It also has been an emotionally difficult time. And I found myself facing a kind of numbness and dissociation that I never really realized I was capable of. And suddenly kind of understanding that addiction to alcohol is not my only addiction, can be TikTok or eating hummus mindlessly or shopping or playing, Blockadoku, whatever I'm playing in the moment. All of this is kind of a dissociation. So this year I sort of took some baby steps back from my business and tried to focus on my own healing and realized I still made things chaotic and busy and workaholic-y. So the less I did, I still felt overwhelmed. And I realized because it's, 15 people's stuff in one body, I am going to break down. So I wanted to kind of look at my future and my business, and my clients and students have been at the forefront of my mind. And I just decided that I can't be of service in the way I want to be. And very clearly, I've been doing a lot of meditation, Buddhist meditation. You cannot pour from an empty cup, right? So that is all to say, through the meditations, counseling sessions, therapy, conversations, journeys, I just made the difficult decision to step back from my business to heal. Basically, all the things I do, the membership group, the readings, the healing work, have been a culmination of many years of research and study and journeys and passion. And, my business has represented my heart and truly my calling. And it's hard to step back. I love every student and client very deeply, but it began to feel irresponsible and unethical to keep doing that work when I was so burnt out. So I need space and time to heal. And I'm also really called to creative work. So I want to do more painting and finish some of my books that I've started, because I'm really good at starting things, but not good at finishing them. I plan to keep doing my podcast because this is one of those things that I just find so joyful to do. I have some conversations that I've had literally in October, November. They're many months old, but I want to publish them because they were great conversations. I'm planning on doing astrology, maybe the earth medicine. I think what I might do is work with the kind of intuitiveness and do some journeying for that instead of pulling cards, but we'll see. I'm not closing the Moon and Stone. I just consider this a step back, and I think I need tending. The Moon and Stone needs tending, and I hope to be at a place to offer classes again, and I'll let you know here. So, I'm going to probably weave some of this into the reading I'm doing for 2024, because I want to talk about the archetype for 2024. If we worked with the Chariot in 2023, 2024 then moves us into the 8 card of the major arcana, which is strength. This is also my life path card. So we're really going to talk about it. But I really do think that when I saw, oh gosh, it's strength, I'm like, oh man, I've been working with that my whole life. But maybe this is exactly what strength is about, is taking step backs when we know we need to. And not just always like pushing through. Like, we tend to think of strength as like this muscle mass, we push. But I think taking a step back and knowing our limitations is strength too. So, I think work has been my go-to place of identity and self and my sense of self. So, and also my spirituality is wrapped up and my healing work is wrapped up. So it feels good to kind of decide to focus on the inward healing journey and hopefully model that for my clients and students. I mean, not that I want to continue teaching when I say I'm not teaching, but, we all learn how to do these things by the modeling that other people do. So let's talk about 2023 a little bit, because maybe you can take like an inventory of 2023. The Chariot is interesting energy. And by interesting, I mean really fucked up, or transformative, revealing, however you want to look at it. Traditionally, the Chariot has been seen as a card of manifestation and conquering. There is a win here. This guy has driven his chariot in, and it looks like he's conquered the city behind him. Now, I am a Greek mythology freak, so I'm going to be talking about some Greek mythology here, but I'll give you the whole background so you don't have to know anything coming into this conversation. But when you look at the card, you see his chariot is in front of a city, and there's 2 sphinxes driving it. So we're going to be talking about the riddle of the Sphinx and this idea that he has conquered the Sphinxes, right? There's this riddle that no one else can answer. So the Chariot knows a lot. He's studied. And you see that also, like he's wearing a skirt, or I mean, it's a kilt or whatever. I don't know what the hell you call it, when his tunic has all the astrology symbols on it, meaning he's studied astrology. And that would have been the way, we don't think of astrology as being a formal study necessarily, like science kind of like poo-poos it, but it is a big study. Like if you start studying astrology, you realize, oh my gosh, this is so complex. And the reason it's so complex is because there are many centuries of studying astrology, right? It's not just like something someone's made up now. So looking at the stars and stuff took time. You were a scientist if you were studying astrology. And one of the things one of my students pointed out is that the Chariot is kind of concrete, made of concrete or cement or something. And so I have come to understand that as meaning he is kind of stuck in his ways and in his understanding of the world. And, he's conquered all this stuff and he's feeling himself, like he really is feeling himself. But that is its own arrogance. And we'll talk about how that turns inward on the Chariot as it goes on. But Rachel Pollack, who wrote 78 Degrees of Wisdom, she's one of, our fundamental tarot writers and thinkers. She passed away in 2023, but she suggests laying out the major arcana this way: 1 to 7 on one line. We're going to take the full out of the sequence. And then 8 to 14 on the second line and 15 to 21. And you kind of line them up in 3 rows. And she notes that the cards kind of relate to each other. So the 1 to 7, she calls the consciousness. This is like our concern for the outer concerns of life. Like, how do we get along with our parents, and how do we find a lover, and how do we blah, 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 work, blah, all that stuff, study. Then the second line, the 8 to 14 is the subconscious. So the inner search for identity and who we are. And then the third line is super consciousness, the development of like spiritual awareness and enlightenment. So the Chariot ends the outer concerns of life. So he's moving on. And so in the 8, where we're going in 2024, we then move into identity. Who am I? Who am I in this world? How do I exist here? Okay. So when we think about the Chariot and, we talk about the Sphinxes and the conquering, it really, to me now, the charioteer can be seen as Oedipus. Okay. And so the Oedipal search for identity and truth is one that's interesting. Okay. Because Oedipus is this central character in this Greek legend, basically. And it comes with a very complex backstory. And you can kind of go back and look at the House of Thebes. For some reason, I thought she was in the House of Atreus, but I don't think she is. At any rate, that's a cursed house. That's a whole other can of worms I'm not going to go into. But at any rate, so King Laius and Queen Jocasta are of Thebes. Okay, and so immediately, basically, when Jocasta becomes queen, they get this monster, all right, which is the Sphinx. Now, the Sphinx is the head of a lady, the body of a lion, and eagle talons, I believe, with wings. So the Sphinx kind of comes in. I think she comes in with her sister, and her sister doesn't look exactly like her. She's not another Sphinx. She's something else. But anyway, the Sphinx is basically merciless. And she comes in with, like I said, the head of a woman, like the back of her is a lion, and then she has the wings of a bird. And basically she either eats people or she asks them to answer a question, a riddle. That's so hard that basically if they fail it, she eats them. And so this Sphinx is basically blocking the way into town. Okay. So, so that's happening. Okay. And then, Laius and Jocasta can't get pregnant. Okay. So they basically, decide that, they're going to go to the Oracle of Delphi. Okay. And the Oracle of Delphi is famous. Everybody will travel there to find out, what's happening, so they go there, and basically the Oracle of Delphi tells them that any child born to them would bring about the death of King Laius. And then the baby would marry the wife. Okay, so Jocasta. So Laius tries to just stay away from his wife, because basically the Oracle of Delphi doesn't say, oh, this is why you can't have kids. She says, good, you shouldn't have kids, because if you have a kid, it's going to kill you, So basically, Laius tries to stay away. It doesn't happen. Jocasta gets pregnant. And when Jocasta has the baby, Laius orders the baby's ankles to be pierced and then leaves him to die on the mountain. And when he does that, he gives him basically to a shepherd. And the shepherd is supposed to take him out. And shepherd's like, I can't do this. Like, this is freaking terrible. So gives the baby to another shepherd. And the shepherd takes it to the king and queen of Corinth, which is Polybus and Merope. And so they raise him as his own, and they name him Oedipus. And Oedipus means like swollen ankle. Okay, so as Oedipus grows older, somebody tells him that Polybus and Merope are not his parents. And so he decides to go to the Oracle of Delphi. And when he does, he says that he is going to kill his father and marry his mother. Okay, so I think I messed that up a little bit. Basically, he's told this, they're not his biological parents. And when he goes to the Oracle of Delphi, he wants to know who are his biological parents. And the Oracle says, you're going to kill your father and marry your mother. So to kind of avoid this, Oedipus leaves Corinth, because the only parents he knows are Polybus and Merope. So he leaves Corinth and basically heads towards Thebes, which is his birthplace. Okay, we all kind of see what's happening because this is a Greek tragedy and they're freaking terrible. On his journey, he gets to this crossroads, and the King Laius is on his route to go find someone to slaughter the Sphinx or to beat the riddle. So he's going to neighboring towns to try to find someone who will basically beat the Sphinx. But when he gets to this crossroads, they start arguing over who has the right of way. And of course, you know what happens. Oedipus kills Laius and the charioteer. Now, he leaves one servant alive, okay? And it's because he escaped. And so Oedipus continues on his way to Thebes. Of course, he confronts the Sphinx, and the Sphinx gives him a riddle, okay? The riddle is, what has 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs in the evening? And Oedipus says, man. Okay, man crawls in the morning, walks when he's a baby, and then he walks when he's an adult, and then he uses a cane at the later part of his life. And so one of the things that happened was when Laius left and got killed, Jocasta's brother Creon became the king, and he basically said, as a reward, anyone who can cause the Sphinx's demise will get the throne and Jocasta's hand in marriage. Okay, so what happens is the Sphinx basically goes totally insane because the Sphinx thought no one could beat her riddle, so she throws herself into the sea and dies. And so Jocasta and Oedipus marry. They have 4 children: Polynices, Antigone, Ismene, and Autocles. And so basically, then we have many years of peace in Thebes. Suddenly, a plague afflicts Thebes. Now, these kind of things like plagues and stuff in Greek mythology happen because the gods find something upsetting, right? Like the going against nature of marrying, like the child marrying the mother would be something like that, you know. Now, what they think is that this has happened because no one has ever found Laius's killer, okay? And so they're basically like, you know, no one has discovered this, justice hasn't been served, the gods are angry, so this is why the plague is here. So Oedipus is like, I am going to find Laius's killer. And he's not aware that he's the culprit because he doesn't know who Laius is. He just killed the guy on the road, which apparently was something you just did. Who knows? Anyway, Tiresias, who's the blind prophet, and he has his own very interesting myth, but Tiresias is blind. He's also a prophet. He accuses Oedipus. He said, you're the one who killed Laius. And Jocasta reveals the details of Laius's death, which apparently she never did before, which is weird as hell. And that mirrors Oedipus's encounter with the charioteer. So Oedipus then is like, we better get this servant who survived. And when the servant came from Corinth, the messenger said, yeah, you're the one who killed Laius. And Oedipus was like, whoa. And because of that, then Oedipus is like, but I got this, you know, prophecy that I would kill my father and marry my mother. And then Jocasta reveals that Oedipus is the child they left on the mountain. And overwhelmed by that, she hangs herself. And then Oedipus, now convinced, you know, that this is true, then gouges his eyes out. Like he can't see the truth, right? So then he exiles to Thebes, guided by his daughter Antigone, and blah, blah, blah. And Antigone has her own sad story as well. But anyway, so what if the charioteer on the 7 card is Oedipus? So we are in this place where we just killed the king of Thebes. We answered the Sphinx's question, so we're kind of mid-myth. We have to assume that we can see so much, like we can see and understand the Sphinx's riddle, right? We can understand how to kill the king of Thebes. You know, we have power, we have strength, we have all this stuff. But the biggest thing, this one thing, who our parents are, we do not know. And so I think 2023 revealed something about yourself that's right in front of you that you hadn't considered. For me, it was the devastating effects of workaholism on my psyche, and how I may have been using work as a soul sedative. Okay. And that's really humbling for me, because work has been something I always enjoy doing. So now I kind of have to deal with my identity. Who am I if I'm not working? Who am I if I'm not a healer? Who am I if I'm not healing others? Who am I if I'm not a tarot reader? Who am I? You know, and as my beautiful friend Lisa Dorigo said, she was like, you know, just because I'm not teaching yoga right now doesn't mean I'm not a yoga teacher. And just because you're not doing healing right now doesn't mean you're not a healer. And that was very important for me to hear. And so I'm so grateful for her and for all my people who kind of like talked me through this year, because it's been, you know, like understanding stuff about myself. I've needed to talk it out and figure stuff out. And there's more to be revealed. Okay. So as we're going into 2024 and we've worked with this, you know, archetype of being able to accomplish a lot of things, but not see one big thing of ourselves. I think the question I would ask in your journal is, what was that for you this year? And then when we work with the archetype of strength, we're considering something else. So we must have the strength to tame our own lions and our own self. It isn't about, you know, Oedipus harms himself. You know, he pulls out his own eyes because he couldn't see this one thing. We don't have to do that. We don't have to pull out our own eyes. What we have to do in strength then is tame it, you know. And I always say this, but we have to name it to tame it, and we have to feel it to heal it. So this is the work of the strength card of this year. And it's often what we don't know about ourselves that causes our ultimate demise. So the strength is to be able to look at the things we haven't been wanting to look at. So strength arrives, and the tarot card number 8 is really lovely. It's a beautiful card. You have the radiant beauty of the goddess. Now she's dressed all in white. She has flowers and stuff around her, and she has the infinity sign above her head, meaning she has access to infinite esoteric knowledge or infinite knowledge or knowledge of the divine. Okay. So she connects deeply with the earth, with all the wild things and the wild parts of our soul. And we see this because she is putting her hands in the mouth of a lion and petting it. So she's just kind of nuzzling up with it. Behind this scene, you see a path and the mountains. And so there is this kind of, whenever we see mountains, we see this kind of strength, the grounding, the what we think of with mountains is just that kind of hardness, right? So when we walk with strength, what we're asked to do is walk with how we work with the truth, how we work with who we are, how do we keep going? Jocasta killed herself. Her strength was, I can't live with this. She didn't go on. She didn't keep walking. She didn't walk into the identity portion of, what Rachel Pollack says. She stopped at the consciousness. She didn't go into the subconscious search for identity and truth, right? So we're asked to walk into strength. It's virtue and quality you're going to become intimate with this year. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, geez, I don't want to be strong. Yeah, none of us do, but we have to, right? And sometimes it's just all the strength in the world. I remember after my daughter died, it was all the strength in the world to just get up and keep moving every day. As my friend Kara said, she's like, maybe the most creativity you can do today is figuring out how to get out of bed today, when you're depressed or when you're in grief or all of that. Now, in the Middle Ages, strength was called fortitude, and it was considered one of the 4 cardinal virtues. And in this way, strength was seen as overcoming animal desires for sex and gluttony and anger and addiction and all of those things. And the lion then was seen as the symbol of Christ. And so if you're a Christian, if you want to kind of go into this part of strength, you can. To me, it's not as useful to think about, because for me, strength often feels like wobbly legs and puffy cried out eyes. And how do you get up and do the next right thing? How do you not give in to the soul sedative? How do you sit in the emotion? That to me is the most strength. I'm not very good at vulnerability. And I know a lot of people, especially women, who have had to take on roles that have gone beyond them. How do you do the next right thing? How do you not numb out? Because sometimes numbing out is the only way to get through a trauma, but then it's the post-trauma where we're like, now I have to just exist, and I am not wanting to numb out. I don't have to. I'm safe here. So just reminding ourselves that we're safe is sometimes the strength that we need. But, strength here is very feminine. It's a great huntress who stalks her goals with intensity and love, who puts up boundaries with compassion, who can kind of tap into that masculine lion energy with short one-word sentences like no or stop or go. So it can be filled with, of course, strength we often think of as raised fists and violence and opposition. But the card itself depicts softness. It depicts patience. And it can feel like pushing against your own reluctance to go forward, right? So it can feel like courage. Okay. And so strength often is used, people will make their own tarot decks and use courage instead of strength as the name of this card. So, during a very difficult part of this life, I basically was pregnant after my stillbirth, and at 12 weeks, I started bleeding. And I was driving to the doctor, and I remember having this like weird moment where I was like, maniacally giggling and like realizing that being strong and pretending to be strong are exactly the same thing. So I don't have to be strong. I'll just pretend to be strong. Like, what do strong people do? I'm going to do that. And it's ironic because a lot of people see me and they're like, oh, you're very strong. You've been through a lot. Yeah, I've had to be strong, but it's a lot of times I pretended to be strong. I'm just like, I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do, because courage is really being afraid to do the thing and doing it anyway. Right. And I felt often that I couldn't rely on the people around me for strength, so I had to do it by myself. And of course, that's part of the stuff I'm healing from, is being able to trust and all of that. So I remember this time after my daughter died, my ex-husband Guillermo wrote me an email, and I keep it in this part of the email. There was a lot more in the email, but I keep this part in my wallet all the time. I printed it and folded it up, and it reads like this. This is what it says. It says, I'm sorry that others you care for and who no doubt care for you can't be more for you in this time of suffering. Such is the bitter lesson for the strong. Because we are strong does not mean those around us, though they may revel in this quality, will be equally strong when we need it. Indeed, it is in time of weakness you find that those around you who rely vicariously on your strength are nowhere to be found, because they can't fathom the responsibility of shouldering the load. They cannot be strong for you, and you must find it in your heart to forgive them. You can believe they're out there wishing they had the strength, the courage to try and lift you up, but you will find that your strength alone will carry you through this, and you will indeed come out stronger. And so, I can't even believe he wrote that. It's just so beautiful. But strength can be both the goddess and the punisher. And, I don't want to be so strong that I push others away. I want to be able to open up. And I think that's really shown in this card, where you see the goddess, her earth connected beauty, and the depth and breadth of her compassion and mercy is just evident here. The goddess protects what she loves. She protects all these living things, especially like the earth goddesses. You think of them, they don't have weapons and armor. The earth is always providing this safe, beautiful place for us to breathe and to live. And so she does all these things with love and vulnerability. I mean, she's completely vulnerable to us. And so it's a paradox, as with most of the tarot, that the goddess strength is in her fear and vulnerability, in her giving. And she walks through each emotion without shying away from it, right? She just is. And I think that the important part here is strength nuzzles this massive lion, and she doesn't need him to protect her necessarily, but he is there protecting her. And part of it is because she is the mother, and she is there offering him a place to live. And we know it's a him because he has a big, great mane. So I think in a lot of ways, she's not parading him around his power and his strength because she doesn't need to. So you can't ever forget the lion's power and strength, because you can see it. He's a wild animal. We know what lions do. He has the ability to attack. He has the ability to attack you, to keep his boundary, to protect his brood, to protect his children, protect his wives, because they do have many wives. So I think it's valuable to kind of balance the masculine and feminine here, using the lion as the masculine and the goddess as the feminine, because the compassionate mother gives all of herself, and the lion protects, right? And is the masculine archetype. It's animal instinct, right? So, the earth mother will heal itself. She will regenerate. She offers of herself. We take her plants, we take her stones, we use them for healing. The mother offers this to us, and in protection, in turn, we offer her protection against those who will exploit. I honestly don't think you can be a medicine keeper without being a steward of the earth. And we need to protect the resources of the earth, because the feminine goddess aspect is not all love and light. It is all of nature. It is, the lion stalking the ibex, or, the prey, and killing the prey and eating the prey, not because he's a psychopath, but because he's a predator. And that's what he does. He eats meat. And we need that cycle of life. And so when we start thinking of strength as good and bad and evil and grace and, all these like very bifurcated ideals, what we're really doing is not seeing the goddess and seeing the earth as being strength and power and compassion and love and giving and offering and taking. This is all part of nature. So, I think of it like when Demeter retracts her harvest, we have these seasons and they all are important, right? So you see this through the world, the Mother Earth goddess is also the goddess of the earthquake or the goddess of the tsunami or the goddess of, every creator myth. The mother that creates also destroys in some ways. So there is a balance in the mother. And a masculine aspect, the lion is kind of seen as her pet, and yet we know he is not, right? He simply shows his own gratitude here and his gentleness, because he reminds us that strength isn't always about brute force. It's there, it's threatening, but lions don't kill wantonly. They stalk prey. They exhibit great patience. Then they run in bursts of energy. They don't run marathons. The lion archetype is one you can use through this year, or you can just use big cats. I know my teacher uses mountain lion for boundaries and black panther for shadow work. We use lion as the king of the jungle, right? The one that keeps his territory free of predators, not simply to limit competition, but also to protect his family and his cubs and to protect his prey, right? Like he needs all of them. He needs all of them to breed. He needs all of them to feel comfortable. They're going to leave if there's more than one hunter, right? So remember this. What is your territory? What do you need to protect? What does the lion have to show you this year? And we walk into strength. We're looking at how we display our power and our strength. Like one of the things I think can be very important is to realize like what is your reaction style? Like when you're being attacked, are you a fighter? Are you a flighter? Do you run away? Do you want to escape? Are you someone who is a fawner, meaning that you try to get that person on your side? You tell them how awesome they are, blah, blah, blah. Are you a fawner? Fight, flight. I guess there's like the numbing one, the just like a deer in headlights. You just stay still. So which one are you? Because those are important to know. This is how your strength comes out, right? If you run away, then you're not the fighter. The lion helps you kind of heal the fighter and, learn how and when to pick your battles. So, are we gentle? Are we fierce? These are all things strength asks us to look at. And strength is also part of what is your passion? What is your animal nature? How are you wild? How do you refuse to be tamed? What are your gifts? Strength wins over fear. Strength is how you practice self-love, self-acceptance, self-care. Strength is how you stand and say, I'm ready to transform. So the strength card is my personal path card. And so I use it as a touchstone. And one of my favorite poems by Adrienne Rich is a place that I let myself find reprieve. And I meditate on this a lot. And it works on many ways because it is really talking about healing as well. So I refuse to become a seeker for cures. Everything that has ever helped me has come through what already lay stored in me. Old things, diffuse, unnamed, lie strong across my heart. This is from where my strength comes, even when I miss my strength, even when it turns on me like a violent master. Sorry, I really struggle with that. That's from Sources, and it's in the book, Your Native Land, Your Life. So that's kind of the card of the year, and I want to talk about the astrology. And I'm not going to go through everything, but there are a couple of big shifts happening in 2024, and that's awesome. So the first thing I'm going to say is, as a Capricorn, it seems like we might be getting some reprieve, Capricorns. So since 2008, which incidentally is the year my daughter died, interesting, huh? Pluto, the shadow work and transformative planet, moved into Capricorn in 2008 and has been there since then. So the most significant transit of the year kicks off January 20th when Pluto enters Aquarius. So Pluto is the planet associated with power, wealth, secrets, mystery, death, shadow work, underworld journeys. And it is going to, this year at least, continue to dance between Aquarius and Capricorn. So it won't land in Aquarius for keeps until November 19th, but it'll mostly be in Aquarius this year. When it does, it kind of remain there for 2 decades. So it's probably the last Pluto placement for some of us who are, I'm going to be 50 in 4 days. So it'll probably be there till 2044. So 20 years I'll be, 70. Maybe I will definitely still be alive in 70. But since 2008, Pluto in Capricorn has illuminated shadows in our financial systems, our political institutions, and our relationship with authority. So from this year on, Aquarius is, kind of system oriented, and it's really innovative. And so we can kind of come up with the solutions when Pluto is in Aquarius, which will be great. And those will be ethical, economic, and social. So we kind of look at Pluto as a generational planet, meaning that its movements are slow, but they impact for a long period of time. So during this period, we're going to learn how to better ourselves on the planet, hopefully, and then experiment with more humanitarian ways of living. So, personally, we look at kind of scaling back, considering what stays and goes, simplifying our lives. So we're going to see Pluto go back into Capricorn on September 1st because of retrograde, and then it'll move forward on November 19th again, and that's where it'll stay until 2044. And we kind of saw some of that happen in 2023, but right now we're kind of looking at the Pluto and Aquarius being innovative, and I love that. I think it's going to feel better, at least hoping it'll feel better. So our Mercury retrogrades in 2024 are all in fire signs. So 2023 we're all in earth signs. In 2024, our first one is April 1st, and it's in Aries. And then we'll see it in August in Virgo and Leo. And then in November, we're going to see it in Sagittarius. So, of course, these are times when we kind of think of like communication being hard and travel and technology. But kind of the gift of them being in fire signs is that fire signs are actually like really great for reassessing and reviewing and kind of being creative. So we can kind of think of them as being times to plan and do creative things. But of course, confusing ideas and wanting to move forward really fast are part of the retrograde shadow. So I think we're just kind of moving into that this year. Now, Jupiter is going to be in Gemini. So Jupiter is a planet of wisdom, expansion, growth, abundance, luck. And it's been in Taurus for most of 2023. And from this fixed earth sign of Taurus, it has been stoking cravings and adding lushness to issues related to material goods. So if you've been shopping a lot, spending a lot of money, trying to get comfortable, like if you're spending money on stuff that makes you more comfortable, that's kind of a Taurus, Jupiter and Taurus thing. So it's going to enter Gemini in May of 2024, May 25th. It is not going to be a great pair up. Traditionally, moving into Gemini, which is a mutable air sign, is said to be a place of its detriment because Jupiter favors big pictures and grand ambitions and all of that. Gemini, which gets distracted by shiny objects, will kind of make it not feel 100% great because Jupiter and Gemini are like, this is one astrologer wrote something like, it's the difference between writing a long novel and a 1,000 split second hot take on social media. There's the difference. Gemini is the hot take and Jupiter is the novel. So there will be some aspects that can be pretty difficult. But what we can do for that is just kind of, like I said, simplify and figure out where you should put your attention. And so doing it with other people, kind of, brainstorming and all that stuff can be really very useful. Also, our eclipses are going to be in the Aries, Libra. So we're going to kind of look at this eclipse season, Aries, Libra eclipses in 2023, and then 2024 we're going to look at Aries, Libra, and so we're gonna see that kind of come up, and we talked about that a little bit because we had our first one kind of coming October. So this eclipse on the 17th of September, the 18th of September, is in Pisces, and that's the first one in a while that we've had. And Pisces eclipses really do kind of tap into a lot of psychic stuff and a lot of mysticism and imagination and sobriety, like all these kind of things kind of pop up during that. So it'd be a good time to just kind of reinforce your work that you're doing, because it can be a time to be triggered. So Mars retrograde is also happening at the end of 2024. So Mars is stationing retrograde in Leo, and that's going to kind of help us look at our own anger and our own ways of kind of putting ourselves out there. And so that might be a little challenging, but I think it will be interesting to kind of end this strength year looking at our own personal power, and how we deal with anger and rage and resentments and all of that stuff. So that's kind of my my reading for 2024. So we got that astrology, we've got the card of the year, and I think the animal of the year, lion, will be really very useful to work with. So have a wonderful kickoff to 2024.
Thanks for listening to Centered with me, Angie Yingst. If you'd like to send me a question or comment about this show or any shows, you can send them to Angie@themoonandstone.com.